Hi, Cancer Sun and Rising. Welcome to your October 2023 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So, what is happening? Well, you're going to have a solar eclipse in the fourth house of home and family, and this is the house that you rule in astrology. So, this should be pretty significant if everything turns out the way it's supposed to. But let's start at the beginning of the month where we have the sun in that sector in Libra, and you're a cardinal sign, meaning that you're a mover and a shaker. You are action oriented. Even though you're a water sign, you still are somebody who doesn't just talk. You walk the talk, and this can make you successful in life more times than not, because you're not just sitting there yakking it up. You actually put things into motion. And so Libra is another cardinal sign, and this means that it's going to fall in an angular house, namely the fourth house of home and family. So if you think of you in the first house and Libra in the fourth house, these two signs form a square. So that can indicate that there is some kind of tension or friction. And that's not necessarily bad because it can spur you on to action. So, for instance, you have the sun in the fourth house, and then you're going to have Mercury go here on the 4th of the month. And so there may be something that you are negotiating when it comes to real estate, when it comes to your own mother. Some people say the fourth house is the father, so maybe that's the case. I like to say family of origin just to cover all the bases. Sometimes Mercury in the fourth house can be thinking about childhood for some reason. If you are about to give birth, or maybe you just have given birth, or you are a father, I would think for the first time that this would really come up, but who knows? And it makes you remember back to when you were a child. There might be some kind of significant situation that occurs. And Mercury can be contract, so that's why I'm saying there might be some home. Maybe you're planning on moving, and this could be like the preparation for that. On the 8th of the month, Venus goes into Virgo, and Virgo is a friendly angle to you called a sextile. I like hiccuped, and a sextile. And it's coming from the third house. So Venus in the third house can be some sort of money that you are making from teaching, or you could say tutoring, or websites, because the third house can be social media and the internet in general. So Venus can be money. Venus can be love. So if you're like, what do they call that? Online dating? I guess it could be that. This could be harmony with siblings. So Mars had been in here a while ago, and that could have been conflict. So maybe you're making nice with your siblings or your aunts or uncles or cousins. The third house can be your community, your local area, and even your neighbors. So there could be some kind of friendship that you're making, or even love match with somebody, a neighbor. That would be really convenient. On the 10th, which is a 1010 portal, that, the repeating numbers are seen as portals. Gosh, why can't I talk right now? So Pluto is going direct in your opposite sign of Capricorn, Cancer, and this may have been quite a doozy, as it pertains to marriages and other committed partnerships, because this is what the seventh house is all about. So if you are someone who has had a marriage on the rocks, this may have been the time when things were taken, or where you were going within and looking at your piece in this. And I think that that is really where all the power lies. You know, Pluto can be about power, but sometimes we're so busy having these outer power struggles with other people that we forget about looking within. And I have been doing this myself with, my own relationships, or just, any kind of issue that comes up. I mean, it doesn't have to be a relationship. Sometimes when you have like clashes, maybe with strangers even. And, whenever you look at that, even if you feel like you were wronged, if you can see why the other person did what they did, you might not excuse it, but at least you can learn something from that experience. And so perhaps, and especially with relationships, because a lot of times it's easy to feel like the victim if your partner cheats on you, or if you feel like they haven't held up their end of the bargain, whatever you consider that when it relates to marriage, or, the equivalent. And yet, sometimes when we're really like soul searching, we realize that we could have done things differently. And it might simply be not be codependent, because that can be rescuing the other person. And what are they going to do? They're going to think that that is how you're going to behave all the time. And in a way, you could say it's unfair to, start rescuing someone at the beginning of the relationship and then suddenly getting angry that they are dependent, or that they're not doing what you want them to do, because you never really treated them like they were an adult and a sovereign being. You're always like, rushing into help. And I think that Cancer people can be very susceptible to codependency, because you are nurturing and you do want to make things all better for other people. So now that Pluto's direct, I think that whatever happens will happen. So, because you've done the work, you've done the shadow work, and now, letting the chips fall where they may. On the 12th, Mars goes into Scorpio. This is a fellow water sign, and this is the fifth house. Oh boy. Well, that makes me wonder now. It makes me wonder if some of you have a little something with someone, because Mars can be the sex drive, and the fifth house can be recreational sex. You put the two together and it sounds like really sowing your wild oats. If somebody's going through a divorce, they may be like, oh, thank God, now I can, now I don't have to feel guilty, and because I think a lot of Cancers want to honor their vows or their partnership and be loyal to that person. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're listening for someone else and you're not a Cancer, tell me if you think Cancers cheat a lot. I don't think that they're one of the biggest signs for cheating, but but anyway, Mars in the fifth house can be good for competitive sports. The fifth house can be the house of pleasure or pastimes. In other words, things people do for fun, games. And so it can be something that's a sport. And there could be some kind of, maybe you're doing things that are like competitive in nature. This can also be a time of like increased creativity. It's a house of creativity as well. And you may be very prolific because you're very driven to create. But you can fall in lust with someone. You could be very, or it could just be dating. The fifth house is a dating scene, and Mars can indicate, maybe increased activity or just socializing in general, having parties or fun, things that people like to do for fun. On the 14th, which is 2 days later, we have a solar eclipse at 21 degrees Libra in that fourth house of home and family. That's a powerful new moon, so there could be a great indicator of new possibilities as far as home and family. You're going to, for the next year, have eclipses in this sector as well as your career sector. So these are two very important areas in our lives. And by next year, 12 months from now, or whenever the last eclipse is in Libra and Aries, you should be able to see that there have been changes. These are fated changes, so it's important to, be very accepting and not fearful of the changes. The more that you can, this can give you great potential if you're looking for a new home or anything like that you may have the opportunity for something along those lines. On the 22nd, Mercury goes into Scorpio. So that fifth house, you could be talking to someone that you're interested in. Who knows? Maybe, again, that's from the internet that you met that person. But it's also great for any kind of writing, creative projects that have to do with writing, the theater, and things of that nature that are creative. On the 23rd, the sun goes here. So we have a lot of energy in this house of fun. This should be a good time for you, Cancer, just to let your hair down and do things that are not related to work, because you're going to have plenty of time for that when the planets all go into Sagittarius. So enjoy this transit while it's here and make the most of it. On the 28th, we have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Taurus, the last eclipse in the Taurus Scorpio cycle, and because you did have a lunar eclipse in Scorpio back in May, this sector of the romantic and creative areas was triggered, and maybe this all this attention on the fifth house is related to that, is somehow the aftermath of that. So the lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Taurus is coming from the 11th house, which is a house of hopes and wishes and friendships. This is the grand finale of this eclipse cycle. And you have seen, I shouldn't state things affirmatively, because maybe you haven't experienced what you were supposed to experience. There's always a possibility that things don't pan out exactly how, an astrologer says they're going to. But anyway, this can be this idea of letting go of relationships which have run their course, and maybe that are holding you back. Because if you feel that you have changed, maybe you have fallen in love, and maybe you've gotten divorced too at the same time and fallen in love with someone else, and that person feels very transformative to you. Because it's interesting that you have Scorpio in your fifth house, because Scorpio is a sign of transformation. So love for you Cancer, is not just something to make you feel like you're really liked, you're really cherished. It's something where it can change you. And that's what you want. You have a very intense attitude towards love. And so sometimes when we are playing small, or when we are stuck in old programming, the friends that we have can be indicative of that old self. And sometimes we need to let go of that. And sometimes it might even be the whole kit and caboodle. Everybody that maybe it's like childhood friends who, if you came from a dysfunctional environment, that might have been all that you know. And now you've been kind of like, maybe you've been expanding yourself. And so everything has changed in that regard. That's how life is if we are really living consciously, is that we're not just stagnating. We're not staying the same. We are evolving. So if that has been the case, that's awesome for you. So anyway, this is also the house of hopes and wishes, as well as the house of gains, which basically means financially, that it can indicate the kind of profit that somebody's making. So with the lunar eclipse, I see that as a breakthrough. I see that as kind of like everything just kind of being bestowed upon the person, and including hopes and wishes. Maybe you've wanted something for a long time, and this is the harvest time. This is a powerful full moon, and full moons can bring harvests. I'm wondering, I think the harvest moon is the one in September, the one in Aries on September 29th. And then there might be some indigenous cultures that saw the one in October that way. I think there's some kind of rule for that. But anyway, you know what I mean. I'm not talking about the literal part of that. I'm talking about the meaning behind the full moon, or the energy that it can represent. So anyway, that's a good end to the month. So that's what I have for you, Cancer. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, I'm promoting my double readings, which are called Deep Dive. Well, I have a couple of them, but the double astrology ones are called Deep Dive, which basically means an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for a special price, because it's a package deal. I have one with the tarot as well. And then I have a Deep Dive plus the tarot, full-length tarot reading called the Whole Enchilada. So you can find out more about those readings, my standalone readings, like my relationship readings and career readings, at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Thank you for listening. Bye.